Hi. Hi.
Hello.
Hi, Betsy. How are you?
How you doing? Good,
Good.
good. And I see Rita. She's cracking the microphone code.
Let's see.
Still showing muted.
You're starting the CPC meeting, Becky?
I certainly am.
I just want to make sure I was in the right place.
I know. You could be in any meeting. Should be a
This is not
meeting.
the school committee meeting?
Nor the Board of Health, nor the
Okay.
planning.
Well, I thought I was on the school committee meeting. Sorry.
Oh, no problem. Good to see you. I thought you were just very curious. Okay, Mateo, I'm gonna make you host.
Lovely, thanks.
Let's hope it, oh, there we go. Oh, I'm so relieved. I crashed twice trying to open this meeting. So the handoff is complete, Matt.
All right.
All right, you guys have a great meeting.
Thank you, Becky.
Bye-bye.
Got a couple more minutes left. How are y'all doing?
Good. How are you?
Well, my 9-year-old called me bro today, so that was,
That make you feel really old or really cool?
I'm not your bro, I'm your dad.
They keep you guessing.
Sorry for the weird view. I'm on my phone. So you can see the ceiling, a lot of the ceiling here. So Cliff, you were traveling, huh? You and Arlene, where did you guys go?
We left here on March 29th. Went to Texas for the eclipse, which
Oh, cool.
it managed to part for a window for us to do the 3.5 minutes of totality. So that was great. And then we continued down to the coast and up the Rio Grande Valley birding and got to Big Bend and
Great.
Guadalupe Mountain National Park and Great Sands and Carlsbad Cavern and
Cool.
Denver and then back here. So we got back a week ago today. So
Wow.
yeah.
Wow. That was a good trip.
Yes, a lot of miles. We're road weary, but
Yeah.
was
So you spent some time with Susan?
yes.
Yeah.
Yep, she was just doing the last move to her new house, and so we were able to be the closers and come in and take care of moving the last items and cleaning and things like that. So it was nice to be able to help. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Is this the first house she's owned?
It is. Yes.
Exciting.
Yes. Scary. But
yeah.
Denver is a crazy market. And so it's,
There aren't many places anymore that aren't crazy. It's just
Mhm.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
All right, it is 7:01.
I
have a-
saw, I think I saw Henry said he was going to be here, right?
Yeah,
He's
Oh, there
on.
you are, Henry. Hi, Henry.
greetings.
I
Rita's
can't
on-
see everybody. I
Rita's
can
on.
only see whoever's talking.
We have a quorum now. I know that Beth can't make it, so
Okay.
I'm not sure whether Alan will or not, but it is now 7:02, so I will call this meeting of the Shutesbury CPC to order. All members are participating remotely. Rita Farrell, Elaine Vallejo, Cliff Reed, Henry Geddes, and Matteo Pangallo. The first item on our agenda is the minutes of April 4th, 2024. Is there a motion to consider the minutes?
I will move that we approve the minutes
Your second.
of April 4th.
Seconded.
Rita, I'm sorry, I have you as both present and absent.
Yeah, so
You did.
Which
I
one
believe
were
I was
you?
there. I was present.
Okay.
I can do that once in a while. I just kind of like, my mind leaves the meeting, but my body stays.
Exactly. And I was wondering which one it was. I will change that.
Okay, good, thank you.
all right. Are there any other amendments to the minutes? Seeing none, we will vote on the minutes as amended. Farrell,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Geddes,
I,
Leo,
Aye.
Pangallo, aye. Okay. Next item on the agenda is the exit survey. So I did send the exit survey. Cliff, I don't think you were on the CPC when we did this. It was like last year, I think, or the year before. We decided it would be good to get some information, not just from applicants, but also from people that, started the process and maybe didn't finish it. So we did an exit survey, basically trying to get some sense of their experience. So I did send it to both of the individuals who submitted determinations of eligibility. Only Graham, is that how you pronounce his name? Graham?
Yeah.
Right. Sent it back, which I sent to the committee in my email. And I wanted to make sure there were any observations or discussion about the responses.
No, I mean, it was positive, so that was a good thing.
didn't evoke a lot of text from him, but
No.
Right. It was brief.
what it's worth.
I mean, I know that there's a limited usability of this kind of information when only one person responds and it's pretty brief. But I do think that it's something worth doing in the future, because there may be years where we end up with 3 or 4 or 5 people submitting determinations.
Sure.
It would be good to know that. So
I agree.
Yeah, no, that kind of information is very useful.
well, seeing no other discussion on that, we move on to item 3 on the agenda, which is potential projects next year. So obviously this year was a pretty quiet one for the CPC. I do, I'm going to continue to do this year what I did last year in terms of trying to create attention. We put out flyers before the public hearing. We had a press release that gave us a little like news blurb in the Gazette and the Recorder, which was great. And it went out to the town committees. It went out by all town email announce. It was on Nextdoor and Facebook. I don't know, short of mailing something to every house, which seems expensive, I don't know what else we can do to try to get the word out. I know of at least one project for next year. Henry knows about this, that the Historical Commission is going to be looking for funding for a protective gazebo for the guide board when it comes back.
Mhm.
And I, suspect we may have one or two other projects. I don't know.
We'll, um, I'm forgetting his, Mosier,
Nate,
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 Mosier.
will he be, bringing that other one forward?
so
The-
gazebo. That was a gazebo too, right?
yeah,
Mhm.
that was a gazebo. I don't know that if he will or not. My impression was that he might. I know, I mean, in full disclosure, my wife is a teacher in another nearby district, and he was in her district recently built something like this using CPA money. So he was in touch with her about the process. And one of the things that I think he was maybe surprised to learn about was the matching funding thing, as well as the making it available to the whole community and not just a school resource question. My impression from what he left us with was that he might try to address those things next year, but I have no idea if he's going to or not.
The only other thing that I would suggest is, I know that we put things in the newsletter, the town newsletter, but if somehow we could make it a little flashier at the front and, highlight it in, I know we can't.
With a
color.
couple of pictures. I mean, pictures always grab people's
Mhm.
attention.
And
So-
kind of making it so we can show the other projects that we've worked on and we've done.
Mhm.
And so, it might encourage people to think about it, and even maybe we could brainstorm a list of potential projects that people might be interested in working on.
Yeah, I
And-
wonder if we could do it as an insert, Elaine. Or
Oh,
committee.
we could make it even color pictures if
Mhm.
we did that.
And maybe, I don't know, this idea of letting them know that it's not an onerous procedure.
Yes.
I think, people get this idea, oh my God, this must be difficult to do.
Mhm.
Lay it out, it's actually pretty simple. Yeah.
Mhm. Yep.
And I do feel like I have two thoughts. I do wonder if some people look at the fact that it's a two-step process, if that dissuades them from trying to do it. But then the other part of me thinks like, but the determination of eligibility is like so useful for letting people know before they invest a lot of time in like trying to get matching funding and filling out a budget and all that, whether or not it even aligns with what the law allows. So
Maybe
guess
we
there's
could go back to recent awardees and have them write something up about that, to say that how easy.
Yeah. A little testimonial.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a possibility. I can't remember if there has been an insert in the newsletter in the past.
Not recently, because it's all done out of house now.
Oh, right. Right.
We don't do it anymore in-house.
Yeah.
But it's possible. I mean, we could look into it.
I would be curious to know, actually, I would. I mean, we have a significant amount of administrative money.
Mm-hmm.
We don't use all of it every year, right? So what does a mailing cost?
My recollection was it was somewhere in the $800 range, but that might have increased. Is that, Elaine, do you or Cliff or Henry, any of you remember? I
Yeah.
just
That
was
might
thinking.
be it, but that's also because there's multiple pages. If it was a one page, we could actually
Oh,
do it
uh-huh.
ourselves,
And stamp it?
because, well, no, we have it, you have to, let's see. You have it printed and it just says
Uh-huh.
resident
Right.
on it. And then we would have to seal them. We would have to fold and seal them. And then we bring them down to the post office and they get sent that way. They get stamped and sent that way. So I I'm sure that if it's a one pager, we could do it, and it might even be a little bit more noticeable if it was a one
Right.
page
Right.
than being stuffed in the newsletter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Grace would have all that information.
I can ask Grace about that. I mean, I don't
And
want
if
to,
you-
I guess I don't want it to be that we are overreacting, because there are years when there are no projects that come in, and that's fine. I mean, you don't buy a new car every year, right? It's good to put that money away for projects, but I do want to make sure that people in town are thinking about it as an avenue for things.
Is there anything else that the Historic Commission is kind of on your radar there, Henry, that you guys have been talking about?
Well, the only other thing I can think of is the archiving of the
Oh, right.
holdings in the old town hall.
Yeah,
But and that would involve archive. You know, it's a fairly labor intensive process. Inventory,
right.
hours devoted to it. We'd imagined it as a voluntary thing, but
Mm.
maybe hire students to do this as well. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I know other communities have used CPA money for that. So, and hired, I believe, outside firms. So it's certainly something to think about. I thought there was something with one of the schoolhouses. No?
It's maybe a $3,000 to $4,000 job, and
Oh, okay.
so it may be applicable. We're working on this is West Schoolhouse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The building committee had also approached the CPC early this past year about the Spear Library porch or
Mhm.
portico or whatever it is. And I don't know if they're going to approach us again or not. I think they were a little thrown off by the whole needing to comply with the mass
Yeah.
historical standards and all that.
Yeah.
But it seems to me that they might be the most reasonable other entity for us to be like pushing to apply for money if they're going to be looking at town buildings that need work, historic
Yeah.
buildings.
And typically, what's happened with the historic preservation, you know, when it involves a building, is often groups get a consultant and, you know, somebody to kind of help them through that process. So, you know, perhaps there's a way to make this work for them. Do you want me to talk to Stephen Dalmas? He's the chair, right? Stephen Dalmas, the chair of the building committee?
Yep.
It was,
Yep.
I think, yes.
Yeah, why don't I'll check in with him and see also if I can find out what the deal is with getting a historic consultant, if that could be part of the grant itself.
Rita, do you know, maybe this is completely still up in the air, whether or not the Lake Wyola Dam is still a potential? Because I know that the dam.
Yeah, I mean, I raised it. There is a bunch of work that has to be done on the dam, and it is a historic structure. So I just don't know where, you know, we hired a new engineering firm, GCA, and they're, you know, up to their eyeballs in dealing with the, you know, the permitting around the lake lowering and so forth. So I'm not sure where things stand, but, you know, about doing any kind of repairs. But I'll check with Becky about that. There was one other thing that came up, but it too is pretty small. So there's a group in town which folks might have read about, some people who are focusing on knotweed and
Right.
and we have a lot of knotweed in Shutesbury.
Oh,
believe it
knotweed,
or not.
I see, the
Yes,
invasive. I thought you
knotweed,
meant
the
like knotweed as
invasive,
in not
the invasive,
marijuana.
yeah. And I was talking to them just, about knotweed, because they're hoping to, have a meeting. And in the process of doing that, I came upon a couple of CPA applications from Long Meadow was one of the communities for the removal of knotweed on publicly owned land. And as I drive down Pelham Hill Road towards 202, on the right, I believe on the land that we just purchased for open space, there is a pretty serious infestation of knotweed. So now on land that's conservation land, and so it might be something that we want to think about, that they might be coming to us, but that's all I know at this point.
We had
two oth-
worked on that property a couple of years ago when I was on the select board. I remember we
Yes, but it apparently, with knotweed is so
comes back. Yep.
so invasive, yeah, that you have to deal with it like 5 years in a row. And you really need somebody who knows what they're doing, a specialist. It just can't be willy-nilly. You can't mow the stuff. And it's becoming a problem. I mean, I found it on my little road, and I realized probably what's happening now is the highway trucks are picking up pieces and dropping them other places in town. So we all should be vigilant, because the stuff is nasty. For a very brief time, we had some soil delivered to our house that was full of knotweed, and Michael and I hand picked it out over, the course of a few months, because, I mean, he, especially in building projects, has seen what happens if it gets out of control. So anyway, that's a long story. But it might be that we have more discussion about it. And something that hasn't happened, the Conservation Commission still has money to do that off-street parking area. So we should follow up with them.
At the West Quabbin Conservation.
Yeah. Yeah, and the West Quabbin Conservation Area is the area I'm talking about, where I believe there's a pretty serious knotweed infestation.
Yep.
Are you familiar with that, Henry? Have you seen that?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, it's right along the road, right along that guardrail. I don't know where that property, how much frontage there is on Pelham Hill Road, but I believe it goes all the way to the Pelham line, and that's where the knotweed is.
Yep.
Oh, so it's on Pelham Hill Road then?
On Pelham Hill, yeah, just as if
Just
you go
south of
past
Baker.
Close to the border with Pelham?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and you'll see it. It gets very tall, and at some point it starts to flower, and it's pretty invasive stuff.
It's on the west side, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that wouldn't be, I don't think that would be a lot of money, but it might be something that we would contemplate.
Yeah, and I wonder if it would be worth also doing that as a sort of way to open the door towards other invasive remediation projects. I mean, I know Castrol has used CPA money from us for that kind of work, and I wonder if there are other properties. I don't know, like,
yeah,
does the new library property have invasives that need, like,
yes,
Oh, yes, it does.
yes, it does.
Yeah, but that's part of our
project already.
Agreement with the Conservation Commission that we will be working on invasives on that property.
Right.
Removing
But I guess
them.
if there's funding available for things like that.
Oh, that might be nice for help with that.
Yeah,
Cool.
we should
Keep that in mind. I'll keep
investigate.
that in mind.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or any other properties in town that are
Yep.
conservation or open space properties.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody else hear any rumors? All right, seeing nothing else, we'll move on to item 4 on the agenda, which is the FY25 calendar. This is so I sent that out by email. It is largely replicating the one that we followed in previous years. I've added in that idea of a grant application workshop, which we can talk about in a moment. But otherwise, I don't know. Any thoughts or feedback on the draft calendar?
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah,
Look-
no, it looks good.
Looks good.
Yep.
All right. I think we should probably vote on it so I can put it up in public.
I'll make a motion to approve the calendar.
A second.
All right. Any discussion? Seeing none. Farrell,
Aye.
Reed,
I
Geddes,
Aye.
Leo,
Aye.
Pengallo, aye. Okay. So that brings us to item 5, which is, so at our previous meeting, the idea of a grant writing workshop came up. I sent you by email the email exchange that I had with the Community Preservation Coalition about this. It seems like there are other communities that do this. They're larger communities for the most part, where they have many different people that are considering applying. I think that, if we were to decide to do it, it seems like there are resources from the coalition that we could turn to, in other towns that we could turn to. My gut instinct is that it might be something where we invite people and nobody shows up, or maybe one person shows up, which is great. And maybe just offering it is a good form of publicity, but I'm worried about putting a lot of time and planning into something that is not going to have a huge return on investment.
Would it be on Zoom, do you think? Which might minimize the damage if nobody shows. I don't know.
I guess, could we do something that we invite people to come and we find out if they're going to be committed to coming, and then open it to anybody else?
Like have
But
a reservation
yes,
in advance, like please register by X.
Right.
And if we don't have enough registrants, we're gonna
Yeah.
cancel. Yeah,
Right.
so like a week ahead, because most
Mhm.
people know. That's a good idea.
Any other thoughts about this?
Well, I think that putting it out just as a general invitation, that probably the response will not be overwhelming. The application deadlines and everything are so far out that people aren't thinking about it. But targeting people that we know have expressed interests in the past, and also that we think might be interested in putting in applications, that I think targeted group and pursuing them makes sense.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Mhm.
When, I don't have the schedule in front of me. When do we meet? I know we're off for the summer, so if we were gonna do this in October, we'll be meeting in late August or September?
So the initial meeting of the committee is August 22nd.
Oh, okay.
My thinking was we would do this over the summer, but we could do it in the fall instead.
I definitely think the fall will get you
Yeah,
much
yeah.
better response than over the summer. Nobody's
Yeah.
thinking about their projects over the summer.
Yeah. So we could plan it at the August meeting and maybe have it in September. And that gives people a couple of months, 3 months before the determination of eligibility is due.
We do it, so we have the public hearing in September as well.
We could do it right at the end of September. I mean, these aren't very onerous applications.
Yep.
Truthfully. So, we could we could send out our newsletter, whatever that we want to call that, in maybe late August, so that people are aware of it. We could put in that, even that we would be having this grant writing workshop, that we're basically going to hold their hand to work through the process. And then target the people that we see on the list of the potential projects that we have, and make it for the end of September. I wouldn't put it in the beginning of September, because, you know, kids are going back to school, everybody's getting into a new routine. So if we do it for the end of September, there's plenty of time there for them to get things in.
That makes sense to me.
Mhm.
When's our public hearing scheduled, Mateo?
September 19th.
Okay. And it's a good time to talk about the workshop then too.
Yep.
September 19th at the public hearing.
Mhm.
I mean, we only had one person attend the public hearing this year, so.
It's going to be overwhelming here.
Okay. So I'll move that in the schedule to the fall, the workshop. Is there, I mean, so Henry had mentioned the idea of doing it by Zoom. Is there a sense of attendance would be better by Zoom or by in person?
I would say Zoom, probably.
Yeah, they Zoom too.
Any other discussion on that item? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to item 6, update on the community housing partnership idea with Leverett. Rita, how's it going?
Okay. So Mateo and I met with Ken Kahn and Barbara Carulli and Shelley Gehring. Barbara and Ken are both on the Leverett Housing Trust, and Shelley Gehring works for the Massachusetts Housing Partnership and does technical assistance, and that's where I worked for most of my professional life. And we had been approached by Leverett because they have their trust, which is set up as it's a municipal entity. It's kind of a spin-off. It uses CPA money. They've been sitting on I think about $300,000 that the trust has, that for specifically for community housing, affordable housing. And they haven't been able to do anything. They started out a number of years ago providing down payment assistance, or principal write down, I guess, more than down payment assistance. I think up to $50,000. And they did a handful of, I'm not sure how they structured it, probably as deferred payment loans for first-time home buyers. But then when prices got so high and there was so little on the market, nobody has taken advantage of that money that they had to offer. So they've been kind of just racking their brains, and they approached us and said, gee, Shutesbury, we know you've only done one housing project. Would you be interested in possibly working with us to, think through some possibilities? And they had this idea that if we hired a consultant, that maybe they would have some, be able to bring some creative suggestions about how we in small towns could further our goals of getting some more affordability. And so I had an initial discussion with Ken and Barbara, and then suggested that we have this talk with Shelley and invited Mateo to join us. And I think what it boiled down to is that the best potential we have for doing something with regard to housing is probably on either publicly owned sites and to focus on probably on new construction and home ownership as opposed to rental. So we determined that the first step for both communities would be to look at municipally owned parcels and potentially other buildable parcels if we were going to try to say encourage and more Habitat for Humanity houses or some other affordable home ownership. MHP actually has some technical assistance money that they will provide to a community looking at a municipally owned site. So I happen to mention the library site. Now, whether or not that ever would have potential in the back of the parcel to do some sort of housing. I think it was originally when a master plan was done way back when by the Conway School. The thought was, could you do some, elderly housing there, as well as the library to have kind of a little village type center. Given all the constraints of that site, it's unclear whether or not there's any potential, but it could be further investigated. MHP would provide no cost to the community monies to do some site investigation if we determined that we wanted to look at that site or any other town-owned sites. And so that's sort of where we left it. I look back at my notes, Matteo, I didn't have anything else about our collaboration with Leverett. So maybe you recall whether or not there was anything else that came from that discussion. I think they were going to go and take a look at some of their sites too, just to see what might be available.
Yeah, I think those are the main takeaways, was like starting off by identifying the municipally owned sites.
Yeah.
And beginning with that, since they were the low hanging fruit. At least that's the way it was, presented.
Yeah. So, we do set aside 10% of our funding, our CPA funding every year for, community housing is one of the categories. And we've just spent, I believe it was $27,000 on that Habitat house. So it would be great if we could come up with some other possibilities, and that could include acquiring land for for community housing, for affordable housing. So I guess I have the the assignment now to get the inventory of town-owned land together, and then we should talk some more about that.
Great.
That's something the assessors will be able to pull really easily, right?
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Cliff. Yeah.
Just a question with Leverett's funds, $300,000. Did that all come from CPA, or was it from other sources as well?
It was. I believe it was all CPA, and I believe Leverett's at 3%. We're only at 1.5%. So, so they've raised a whole lot more money than we have. I don't think they've gotten any other. You as a trust, like a trust can accept donations. So yeah, and property values, are higher. So their taxation, which the surcharge is based on, has been higher in Leverett. So that's why they have that much money.
They're also early, is it Leverett or Pelham? One of the two was an early member of the CPA, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that they're, I don't want to use the phrase grandfathered in, but like, what is the, they get the original agreement of the CPA trust match, which is a lot more money.
Right. Yeah. And the other thing that, and we talked a little bit about this with Shelley Gehring, is that communities, Leverett could choose to give us their CPA money. And that has happened in other places on the Cape. They have done a lot of cooperation because they kind of see, their housing problem as a regional problem, that it's not just a problem in Wellfleet or in Truro, but it's a whole Cape problem. So there is that in the back of everybody's minds. We could do a collaboration, and the way that you address it is that you can provide some sort of local preference. So you could include in your program design, let's say you were building 4 houses, that based on, a contribution, that one of those houses could be set aside for somebody from Leverett. So to be sold to an eligible household. Likewise, if we were to, if Leverett came, like, for example, if the Kittredge property got developed and there was an affordability component to it, and we decided, geez, there's no options for any kind of affordable housing development in Shutesbury, but with the Kittredge property, they're going to be doing, I think it's all ownership now. It's going to be a much smaller development, according to the Leverett folks, than was originally anticipated. But we could make a contribution towards the affordability of some of the units that would then be set aside for Shutesbury people. It's a little odd, to say, oh, okay, we'll move out of Shutesbury. But, a Shutesbury resident there could be kind of a broad definition of what a resident is. And that often happens in affordable housing. It's people who might work in the community, or who grew up in the community and, have strong ties. So it's just something to think about. There might be some new development in Leverett, and I don't know anything about the timing, but it did sound like things were moving ahead with the Kittredge property. So just something to think about.
Mm-hmm.
Did I miss anything?
So, for purposes of comparison, we have 38,000 in our affordable housing fund.
But we have a bunch of unrestricted funds.
We do, yeah.
So, yeah. And you can bond. I mean, that's the other thing is, let's say there was a parcel of land that the town decided they wanted to buy for a combination of open space and housing, and it was $500,000. You can borrow and then use the CPA funds to pay off the borrowing, over a period of years. So that's what a lot of communities have done when they've had a really significant CPA expenditure. So that's something to keep in mind. And, there might be some open space acquisition coming up. There was at least one parcel in town that there's been some talk about, Kestrel coming in, and gee, the next time around, it would be great if we do have an open space acquisition, if we could carve out a lot or two and set that aside for a couple of homeownership units.
Mm-hmm.
Alan, you had something to say?
Yeah, I guess not. So
Okay.
stay tuned.
Yep. Are there any other questions for Rita or comments on that?
No, this is great.
Yeah, interesting prospect.
Yeah.
All right. In that case, we'll move on to item 7. Is there any other business for the committee to consider?
Yeah, it looks like you got here just in the nick of time. Apologize.
Good work, Alan.
Impeccable. All right. Well, seeing no other business, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn for the evening.
I will second.
All right. Farrell,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Geddes,
Aye.
Leo,
Aye.
Hanson,
Aye.
Pengallo, aye. That's it. Have a great night, everybody. See you
Okay,
around.
you too. Good night.
Thank you.
Aye.